Albania country in southern Europe located in the western part of the Balkan Peninsula on the Strait of Otranto, the southern entrance to the Adriatic Sea. The capital city is Tirana. Albanians refer to themselves as Shqiptar, often taken to mean sons of eagles, though it may well refer to those associated with the Shqip language and to their country as Shqipëria. They generally consider themselves to be descendants of the ancient Illyrians who lived in Central Europe and migrated southward to the territory of Albania at the beginning of the Bronze Age about 2000 BCE. They have lived in relative isolation and obscurity through most of their difficult history, in part because of the rugged terrain of their mountainous land, but also because of a complex of historical, cultural, and social factors. Because of its location on the Adriatic and Ionian Seas, Albania has long served as a bridgehead for various nations and empires seeking conquest abroad. In the 2nd century BCE, the Illyrians were conquered by the Romans, and from the end of the 4th century CE, they were ruled by the Byzantine Empire. After suffering centuries of invasion by Visigoths, Huns, Bulgars, and Slavs, the Albanians were finally conquered by the Ottoman Turks in the 15th century. Ottoman rule cut off Albania from Western civilization for more than 4 centuries, but in the late 19th century the country began to remove itself from Ottoman influence and to rediscover old affinities and common interests with the West. Land of Albania. Albania is bounded by Montenegro to the northwest, Kosovo to the northeast, North Macedonia to the east, Greece to the southeast and south, and the Adriatic and Ionian Seas to the west and southwest, respectively. Albania's immediate western neighbor, Italy, lies some 50 miles 80 km across the Adriatic Sea. Albania has a length of about 210 miles 340 km and a width of about 95 miles 150 km. Plant and animal life. Only a small part of Albania is completely without vegetation. Forests cover about 1/3 of the total area. The coastal lowlands are characterized by Mediterranean shrubs such as laurel and myrtle. Above the lowlands, oak forests predominate. Above the oak belt, beginning at about 3,000 feet 900 meters, is a stretch of beeches and pines, and alpine pastures lie above the timberline. Unrestricted hunting has taken a heavy toll of Albanian wildlife, but hunting laws were introduced and nature preserves were established in the 1990s to protect the remaining jackals, wolves, and foxes, and the even rarer wild boar, bears, and chamois. The mild coastal climate attracts great numbers of migratory birds such as swallows, storks, ducks, geese, and pelicans. Sardines and mullet are among the fishes found in Albanian coastal waters, and trout are found in the streams and lakes of the mountains. People of Albania. Ethnic groups. Albania has one of the most homogeneous populations in Europe, with non-Albanians accounting for less than 1/10 of the total population. The largest minorities are Vlach Greeks, concentrated mainly in the southeast, and Macedonians living along the eastern border. The two main subgroups of Albanians are the Jegs in the north and the Tosks in the south. Differences between the two groups were quite pronounced before World War II. Until the communists' takeover in 1944, Albanian politics were dominated by the more numerous Jegs. Renowned for their independent spirit and fighting abilities, they traditionally opposed outside authority, whether that of foreign invaders or that of the Albanian central government. Traditional Jeg society was based on tribal groups, each one led by a clan chieftain or bad director. Under the communist regime, this clan system largely disappeared from Albania, but the patriarchal families characteristic of the Jegs are still evident among ethnic Albanians in Serbia, Montenegro, Kosovo, and North Macedonia. Languages of Albania. The Albanian language, called Shqip or Shqip by Albanians, is of interest to linguists because, as a descendant of the extinct Illyrian tongue, it is the only surviving member of its branch of the Indo-European language family. Influenced by centuries of rule by foreigners, the Albanian vocabulary has adopted many words from the Latin, Greek, Turkish, Italian, and Slavic tongues. There are two principal dialects: Jeg spoken north of the Shkumbin River and Tosk spoken in the south. Jeg dialects are also spoken in Serbia, Montenegro, Kosovo, and North Macedonia, and Tosk dialects, though somewhat archaic as a result of centuries of separation from their place of origin in Albania, are prominent in the Albanian communities of Greece and Italy. Although there are variations even within these two dialects, Albanians can understand one another with no difficulty. Religion. As a legacy of nearly 5 centuries of Ottoman rule, Albania is a predominantly Muslim country. However, as a result of the rigid enforcement of atheism during the communist regime, today most Albanians are adherents of religious groups in name only and practice largely secular lifestyles. In 1967, the Communist Party officially proclaimed Albania an atheistic country and commenced to close all places of worship, confiscate their property, and ban religious observances. For the whole of its 45 years of absolute rule, the party engaged in large-scale persecution of believers. Only in 1990, when freedom of worship was restored, did churches and mosques begin reopening. In the early 21st century, about 7/10 of the Albanian population was nominally Muslim, more than half of them Sunni Muslims, and the next largest group being the Bektashi sect. Those who identified with Eastern Orthodoxy constituted about 1/5 of the population, and those associated with Roman Catholicism constituted about 1/10. Economy of Albania. Before 1991, the ruling Communist Party directed the country's entire economy through a series of 5-year plans. All means of production were under state control. Agriculture was fully collectivized, industry was nationalized, and private enterprise was strictly forbidden. In addition, a provision of the Constitution prohibited the government from seeking foreign aid, accepting loans, or allowing foreign investment, which contributed to Albania's reputation as isolationists. In the post-communist period, economic decision-making was decentralized and restrictions on private trade were lifted. Foreign investment was pronounced by the mid-1990s, with assistance coming from the United States, the European Union, and the International Monetary Fund. Agriculture, forestry, and fishing. The former communist government allocated substantial resources to the development of agriculture. Measures intended to encourage the growth of food processing and agriculture were hampered by chronic shortages of basic foods, a failing infrastructure, a lack of raw materials, a shortage of skilled workers and managers, low productivity, and poor labor discipline. The main crops are wheat, corn, sugar beets, and watermelons. Apples, plums, grapes, walnuts, and chestnuts are also grown. Citrus fruits are cultivated on the southern coast, as are figs and olives wherever there is sufficient irrigation. Major livestock are sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs. Forests cover about 1/3 of Albania. The country has lost much of its forest area, however, due to clearance for agriculture, pasture, and fuel wood, which occurred mainly in the early 1990s. Transportation and telecommunications. Albania built its first railroad in 1947, and during the next 4 decades, Tirana was linked by rail to other major industrial centers in the country. The road network has been extended even to remote mountain villages, but surface quality can be poor. The leading port is Durrës on the Adriatic Sea. The main air hub is in Tirana. Health and welfare. Albania has a relatively well-developed healthcare system. The majority of services are provided by the state, though private practice was revived in the early 1990s. At the turn of the 21st century, physicians in Albania had more than twice as many patients as the average European doctor. Nevertheless, there has been a considerable reduction in the incidence of most infectious diseases, and life expectancy for both men and women in Albania is slightly above the European average at about 75 and 80 years respectively. Education. The government has devoted considerable resources to education. Schooling is compulsory between ages 7 and 15. Education at the primary and secondary levels is free, and higher education fees are based on family income. The University of Tirana 1957 is the country's major institution of higher education. Tirana also has an agricultural and polytechnic university, along with an impressive network of professional and vocational schools. More than 9/10 of the population age 15 and older is literate. Cultural life. Cultural development in Albania was handicapped by more than 4 decades of communist rule. The government imposed strict censorship on the press, publications, and the performing arts. The succeeding governments have made a conscious effort to encourage and preserve the country's rich folk life. Albania is known for its traditions of hospitality, which are based on the Canon Code, a set of unwritten laws devised in the 15th century by Prince Duke and Albanian feudal lord.